Guys, well, here's video number 2. I hope that with the first video you watched the video, you did the practice on your own. Remember, with that practice you can print it out so that you have a sample of the workbook, or you can do it on a piece of notebook paper. Today is going to be the same way. There's going to be some practice problems that you can work on your own. So let's get started. This is continuing lesson 5. Our objective is still using inverse operations to solve equations with a rational coefficient. A rational coefficient just means that there's a fraction in that coefficient. So let's go over what we started with. Okay, first thing that we want to do is find the reciprocal. What is the reciprocal of 4/5 x? So this just means that this is rational. That's all that means. So we have 4/5 x. We want to multiply that by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is going to be just the opposite. And we want to do that so that these cancel out and we are left with x. So if we do that to one side, we have to do it to the other side of the equation. So if you'll notice, I'm going to drop my fraction down. And I do that so that my whole numbers match up, and I turn that whole number into a fraction. So before we do that, we want to reduce. So if you reduce, you are minimizing what you have to multiply. 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 40 10 times. I am left with 10 times 5 is 50 over 1, and I don't need to put that. So that is as simple as it gets, and you've simplified it before you even multiplied. All right, these are the practice problems that I gave you to do yesterday. Oops, let's go to the next page. These are the practice problems that I gave you to do yesterday. I want to take a minute to go over these with you. So if you don't have these, I'm going to pause for a minute for you to get them, or pause the video so you can go get them. And we can take a look at these to make sure that you got your answers correct. And you can send me a message if you have any questions. So let's take a look at this first one. What does this have to do? What do I have to multiply this to get to 1? Well, if I multiply it by the reciprocal of 4/7 is 7/4. These cancel out and I'm left with 1. Here, the reciprocal was 3/5. And again, these cancel out. Now, this one is a little tricky because there's a negative here, and you may not have caught the negative. So what is we know that we have to have 2 negative numbers because 2 negative numbers makes a positive. So your answer is going to be negative. But what is the reciprocal of x over 15? The reciprocal is going to be 15 over x. But it has to be negative because we have a negative times a negative equals a positive. Okay, what is the reciprocal of 90? Just turn 90 into a fraction. 90 over 1. The reciprocal is going to be 1 over 90. All right, let's look at these problems. These get a little bit harder. They start off simple and they get a little bit harder. We're going to take this first one, and we are going to turn it into a fraction. And we want to reduce. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 27. How many times? 9. Now we multiply straight across. We end up with 1 times 9 over 1, which is equal to 9. Here, same thing. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 27 9 times. But now if we multiply straight across, we have 9 over 2. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay? We're multiplying by a whole number. Anytime you're multiplying a whole number by a fraction, turn that whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. Can we simplify here? Absolutely. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 22 11 times. 11 times 9 99. 1 times 1. Our simplest answer is 99. Okay, for the second part, you have to cross-reduce both ways. We know that 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9, how many times? 3. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 22, 11 times. 11 times 3 is 33. Do I need to put it over 1? No. Okay, let's look at C. Okay, make this a fraction. These cancel out. What are you left with? 684. Same thing here. Now, we have 5 goes into 5 once. And 2 will go into 6. But let's just multiply across here. We have 684 divided by 2. That's what that means. If you multiply straight across, 684 divided by 2. Let's do that problem up here. 684 divided by 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Bring down the 8. 2 goes into 8 4 times. Bring down my 4. So your answer here is going to be 342. Okay, for E, make that whole number a fraction. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 goes into 5 once. We're multiplying straight across. 87 times 1, 87. 3 times 1, 3. So our answer is 87 over 3. Okay, now we have 87 over 15 times 5/3. Well, 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 15 3 times. Can 87 be divided by 3? Probably not. So let's just multiply straight across. 87 times 1, 87. 3 times 3, 9. We're left with 87 over 9. Okay, let's look at these problems that we have down here at the bottom. Trying to get them all in here. Okay, so 2/3 x equals 40. Let's multiply this by the reciprocal. 3/2. These cancel out, leaving me with x. If I multiply this side by 3/2, I have to multiply this side by 3/2. Just drop it down so it matches and turn this into a 1. Okay, can anything be reduced? Yes. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 40, 20 times. 20 times 3 is 60. The reciprocal here, 2/3. These cancel out. You're left with x. If I multiply this side by 2/3, I have to multiply this side by 2/3. Can anything be reduced? Does 3 go into 50? No. So in this case, we're just going to multiply straight across. 50 times 2, 100. 3 times 1, 3. We have 100 over 3. Okay, here, 1/4. The reciprocal, 4 over 1. It cancels out. I'm left with x. I have to multiply this side by 4 over 1. Nothing. Does anything? Can I cross reduce anywhere? No. So I'm just going to multiply straight across. 3 times 4, 12. 5 times 1, 5. My answer is 12 over 5. Okay, I just wanted to take some time to review that with you so that you, if you had any questions. Now remember, you need to watch the videos and you need to do the practice. Here's a couple more practice problems we're going to go over today. Okay, why don't you pause the video for just a minute, try these problems, see how you do, and then come back and watch the instruction as I go over them. Let's use it as a, like I say in class, a practice test. Let's see what you know. So go ahead and pause the video for just a minute, work out these 5 problems, and then come back. All right, guys, let's see how you did. So, what is the reciprocal of 2x? The reciprocal is going to be, remember, turn that into a fraction. And the reciprocal is flipping it. 1/2. So 1/2, these are going to cancel out. I'm left with x. If I multiply that side by 1/2, I have to multiply this side by 1/2. Can anything be reduced? Absolutely. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 4 2 times. I am left with 2 times 1 is 2. And 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, here it's on the opposite side. So I want to multiply this side by 3/2, and I'm going to multiply this side by 3/2. These cancel out. I am left with x. What do I have here? Can anything be cross-reduced? No, so we multiply straight across. You should have 3/4. Number 3, I'm going to multiply this side by 2/1. It cancels out. I'm left with x. If I multiply that side by 2/1, I have to multiply this side by 2/1. Nothing reduces, so you have 10/17. Problem 4. What's the reciprocal? 2/5. It's the opposite. These cancel out. I'm left with x. If I multiply this by 2/5, I have to multiply this by 2/5. See how I just dropped it down so my 15 and my 2 match, and turn that into a 1 and multiply straight across. So first let's reduce. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into here 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6 over 1. The reciprocal here, 3/2. These cancel out. I'm left with x. If I multiply this side, I have to multiply this side. Can anything be reduced? Nope. 3 times 5, 15. 8 times 2, 16. So how'd you do? How many of you did you get all 5 right? If you did, I'm super proud of you. If you didn't, go back and check your mistakes to see what you did wrong so that you can fix your mistakes. All right, let's take a look at these problems. Okay? Assume that x is positive and complete each statement with a greater than or less than or equal to. So for some of these, it might be easier to draw some pictures if you need to. If we look at this problem right here, okay, it's asking us 5/4 x over 4/5 x. If we were to draw a picture, and I'm going to do a little picture up here, this is telling me that I have 5/4. Okay, is that more or less than if I did, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 5 sections here. This is saying that you have 4 out of 5. Now, when I color in this picture, this is 1 whole and 1 more, right? This one is not quite a whole yet. So it only makes sense that this is going to be more. Okay, this one, the x's are the same. So the x is the same. You have to look at the top number. Which top number is more? 3 is more than 2. So 3x is greater than 2x. When you look at this problem, do you see any work that needs to be done? Okay, let's cancel these out. What are we left with? If these cancel out, we have 1x and 1x. These are equal to each other. So you can't just assume one. You have to do a little bit of math and reduce to see if they're equal or not. Looking at D. Okay, remember in our vocabulary, this is parts of a whole. So, let's say this is a giant birthday cake. And let's say x is 1. If this cake is cut up into 82 pieces, are the pieces going to be smaller? And this cake is, or bigger. This cake is cut up into 67 pieces. Which side of these is going to have a bigger piece? When we're looking at this and X is the top, we are going to go with how many parts. So, just like up here, if this was a cake and it was cut into 4s, my pieces are bigger than over here, right? So this one is going to be bigger because the parts total are smaller. So that means that that cake is going to get cut into larger pieces because the cake size doesn't change. The cake size isn't going to change. It's just how many pieces are we going to get out of that same cake. Okay, this one. Can you see any reductions? Well, we have 4x. Well, how many times does 2 go into 8? 4. They're the same. So this one's equal. Here, what do we have to do? Well, if we add these up, 1x, 1 over x plus 1 over x plus 1 over x. Remember, when we're adding, the bottom doesn't change. X stays the same. How many of them do we have? We have 3x, and now we're comparing that to 1x. So this one is going to be larger. Okay, this is the video today. Tomorrow, I'm going to be sending you some practice problems to do. I will try to find a way for you to submit those so that I can take a look at those. So far this week, you have not had to submit any work. I'm giving you 10 daily points for just logging in and watching the videos. Tomorrow we will have an assignment that you will have to turn in. Tomorrow's Thursday, and Friday we will have a quiz. So good luck on that quiz. Tomorrow I will post the assignment. I will probably also post some scrambled answers for you. That way you can check your own work before going into the quiz. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please send me an email. I hope this first week has been good for you. I miss you guys. I miss all of you. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.